I was 7 months pregnant when my husband stopped touching my stomach. Then he said, if she were a boy, I would have stayed. The next morning, I found out he had not just left me. He had been hiding everything. So I opened the shared tablet he forgot to log out of. At first, I thought I would only find where he had gone. An apartment. A hotel. Maybe some message to a friend admitting he had panicked. I still wanted there to be a reason I could understand. That is the part one hate admitting. Even after he packed 2 suitcases and walked out of our house in the rain, I wanted him to come back. I wanted him to tell me he was scared, overwhelmed, confused, anything that could make him sound human again. But the reason was worse than fear. It was choice. The night before, I had found him in the kitchen with his laptop open and a glass of water sitting untouched beside him. He had been sleeping downstairs for weeks. He barely spoke to me. He had stopped coming to appointments. He no longer asked how I felt, what the doctor said, or whether the baby had kicked that day. So I stood in the doorway and said, "What happened to you?" He did not look surprised. He slowly closed his laptop, leaned back in his chair, and said, "I can't do this anymore." I put one hand under my belly. Our daughter was moving, small and steady, like she was listening. "Do what?" I asked. "This," he said. "Us. The baby. Everything." I let out a small laugh because my mind refused to accept the words. "Nathan, I'm 7 months pregnant." "I know. You know?" He looked past me, not directly at me, and that almost hurt more than anger would have. "If it had been a boy," he said, "I would have tried harder." For a few seconds, the room went silent except for the hum of the refrigerator. I asked, "What does that mean?" He finally looked at me. "It means I thought I could push through if we were having a son. I thought maybe it would feel worth fixing." Worth fixing. That was how he described our marriage. Our family. The baby we had fought so hard to have. I whispered, "She is your child." He rubbed his face like I was making the conversation difficult. "I don't know how to raise a daughter. I don't feel connected to this." "To this?" "To the life," he said. He could not even say her. That was when something inside me went cold. Not because I stopped loving him in 1 second. I wish it worked that way. It didn't. Love does not disappear just because someone proves they do not deserve it. But in that moment, I understood that the man standing across from me was not confused. He was telling the truth he had been hiding behind silence. Nathan and I had been together for years. We were not perfect, but I thought we were strong. When we started trying for a baby, I believed it would bring us closer. For a while, it did. Then months passed. Every negative test felt like a small private loss. I tracked dates, symptoms, temperatures, and everything else the doctors told me to track. I cried in bathrooms. I smiled through family dinners. I told people we were not rushing, even though my whole body felt like it was failing me. Nathan was supportive in the beginning. He held my hand in waiting rooms. He told me, "We're going to be parents." I know it. I believed him because I needed to. But over time, the way he talked about becoming a father changed. He stopped saying, "Our baby." He said, "My son." At dinners with his parents, he talked about teaching his boy how to be strong, how to lead, how to carry the family name. His mother would smile like he had already handed her a grandson. I would say, gently, "Or granddaughter." The table would go quiet for half a second. Then Nathan would squeeze my knee under the table, not lovingly, but like he was telling me to stop. I ignored it. I told myself he was excited. I told myself old families had old ideas. I told myself love would fix it once the baby was real. When I finally got pregnant, we both cried on the bathroom floor at dawn. He held the test like it was something holy. For weeks, he kissed my stomach before there was even anything to see. He downloaded baby apps, bought books, and smiled more than he had in months. But every dream he described had a boy in it. At the 20-week scan, I was nervous and happy. The room was dim, the gel was cold, and the heartbeat filled the air like a tiny drum. The technician smiled and said, "Everything looks healthy." That was all I cared about. Then she asked if we wanted to know. Nathan said yes before I could answer. She moved the wand, studied the screen, and smiled again. "Looks like you're having a girl." I started crying immediately. A daughter. A healthy baby girl. I turned to Nathan, expecting him to laugh, maybe tear up, maybe squeeze my hand. His face was blank. Not mildly disappointed. Not surprised. Empty. In the car, I tried to sound light. "I guess we can finally look at girl names." He stared through the windshield. I said, "Nathan." He answered without looking at me. "I need a minute." That minute became 8 weeks. He moved to the guest room first, then the couch. He claimed my pregnancy pillow made the bed uncomfortable. Then his back hurt. Then work was too stressful. Every excuse was small enough that arguing made me feel needy. He missed one appointment, then another, then another. The first time the nurse asked if my husband was coming, I smiled and said, he got stuck at work. By the third time, I stopped explaining. The nursery stayed half-finished. The crib box leaned against the wall. A bag of baby clothes sat unopened in the corner. One afternoon, I showed him a soft yellow blanket I had bought. He glanced at it and said, "That's nice." I waited for more. There was no more. "Do you want to feel her kick?" I asked. "Not right now." He rinsed his coffee mug and walked away. That was the first time I felt protective in a way that scared me. Our daughter was moving inside me, already alive and already loved by me, while her father acted like she had personally failed him. So I started talking to her when I was alone. In the car. In the shower. In the nursery doorway. "I want you," I would whisper. "No matter what anyone else does, I want you." My friend Tessa noticed before anyone else did. She came over one Saturday with soup and a bag of tiny clothes. Nathan was supposed to be home, but he had left early and only said he needed space. Tessa looked around the quiet house. "Where is he?" "Out. For work." "I don't know." She did not push right away. She helped me fold baby clothes and talked about normal things. But when she picked up a tiny pink sleeper and saw my face, her expression changed. "What is going on?" I said, "Nothing." She gave me that look only an old friend can give. I lasted 5 seconds before telling her everything. The scan. The silence. The couch. The missed appointments. The way he looked through me. When I finished, she said quietly, "That is not normal disappointment." I stared at the little sleeper in my lap. "I know. Has he said anything cruel?" I almost said no. Then I realized cruelty does not always shout. Sometimes it walks past a crib box every day and pretends there is no baby coming. The night he left, I had heard him on the phone in the garage. His voice was low, but I heard enough. "I can't keep doing this," he said. "I'm handling it." There was a pause. Then he said, "No, she doesn't know." When he came back inside, I was waiting in the kitchen. "Who is that?" "Work." "Don't lie to me." That was when he sat down and ended our marriage like he was ending a contract. After he said he would have tried harder for a son, he went upstairs and packed. I followed him, still hoping he would stop himself. He stepped around the baby books beside my bed and opened drawers like I was not standing there. "Where are you going?" I asked. "A place downtown." "For how long?" "I don't know. I am 7 months pregnant." He zipped the suitcase. "You'll be taken care of." Taken care of. Like I was a bill. Like our daughter was a financial item he could manage from a distance. At the front door, I said, "If you leave tonight, you are not just leaving me. You are leaving her." He opened the door. "I know." Then he walked out. For a while, I stayed on the stairs because my legs would not hold me up. Tessa kept calling, but I could not answer. I was afraid that if I said the words out loud, they would become real. The next morning, after maybe 2 hours of broken sleep, I picked up the tablet we used for bills, photos, and calendars. Nathan had not logged out. I was not looking for revenge then. I was looking for truth. The first photo I saw was of him on a hotel balcony with his arm around a woman I recognized from one of his company events. Her name was Alyssa. She had smiled at me once, touched my arm, and told me I looked beautiful pregnant. In the photo, she was wearing Nathan's shirt. I stared until the screen dimmed. Then I tapped again. There were more photos. Restaurant tables. Airport lounges. Hotel rooms. Messages. Receipts. Weekend trips that had been labeled as business travel. The dates went back before the scan. Before he knew we were having a girl. Before he started acting like our daughter was the reason he had changed. He had already been gone. The baby was just the excuse he used because the truth made him look exactly like the kind of man he pretended not to be. I ran to the sink and threw up. Afterward, I sat on the kitchen floor with the tablet beside me, breathing through the pain in my chest. Then I kept looking. There were messages where Alyssa complained about waiting. Messages where Nathan promised things would be different soon. Messages where he talked about me like I was an inconvenience with a due date. One line stayed in my head. "She thinks the baby changes everything. She has no idea." That was when I called Tessa. She came over within half an hour and found me at the table with screenshots saved and my face swollen from crying. She read enough to understand. Then she looked up and said, "You need a lawyer." That was the first smart thing anyone said. Nathan texted me later that afternoon. We should handle this calmly. I'll make sure you and the baby have support. My attorney will reach out. The baby, not our daughter. Not Grace, the name I had started whispering when I was alone. I typed 3 different replies and deleted all of them. In the end, I sent nothing. By the next week, papers arrived. Everything about them felt cold. He wanted a quick, quiet divorce. He offered support that sounded generous until my lawyer explained how carefully it had been calculated to protect him. The worst part was custody. He did not ask for weekends. He did not ask for holidays. He did not ask for regular visitation. He wanted contact to be decided later, if necessary. If necessary. I read that phrase 3 times. Then I put my hand on my stomach and said, at least now we know. My lawyer, Mara, was direct in a way I needed. She read the messages, photos, and records I had saved. She took notes, asked questions, and told me not to send anything to anyone without speaking to her first. Then she said, this gives us leverage. For the divorce? For the divorce, yes. Possibly more than that, depending on what the company already knows. But you need to decide what matters most, financial strategy or accountability. I hated that she was right. A few days later, she called me in for another meeting. Nathan was being considered for a major promotion. His side was pushing to settle quickly, and now I understood why. If we waited until the promotion became official, the support numbers could change. Grace might have a much stronger financial future. Mara said, if we slow this down, you may be in a better position. We do not provoke. We do not expose anything yet. We wait. It was probably the smarter move. For one afternoon, I tried to accept it. I drove home and sat in the nursery doorway. Tessa and her brother had finally built the crib because I could not bring myself to open the box. The yellow blanket was folded over the rail. The room looked soft and peaceful, and I felt none of that inside me. I imagined Nathan getting promoted, smiling in a suit, shaking hands, letting people congratulate him while I sat at home carrying the child he rejected. I imagined Alyssa standing beside him at some event, laughing with people who had no idea what they were celebrating. Then I thought of the message. She has no idea. Something in me went still. I did not want to play nice so he could become more powerful before paying us off. I wanted the truth to reach the room before he did. That night, I made a file. I did not add insults. I did not exaggerate. I did not include private details about my pregnancy. I organized only what already existed on our shared device and accounts, dates, messages, photos, receipts, and records that showed the relationship, the reporting conflict, and the questionable expenses. At the top, I wrote a short note saying I believed the information raised serious workplace concerns and should be reviewed by the appropriate people. Then I sat there for a long time with my finger near the send button. I knew it could cost me money. I knew it could make the divorce uglier. I knew my parents would tell me I should have waited. But Nathan had built his life on looking untouchable. And I was holding proof that he wasn't. So I sent it. For 6 hours, nothing happened. Then Nathan texted me. What did you do? No confusion. No denial. Just fear pretending to be anger. He called again and again. I let it ring. For the first time in weeks, he was the one waiting for an answer that would not come. The next morning, things moved fast. Alyssa's social media disappeared first. Then Nathan's company profile was gone. By afternoon, someone who knew him through work messaged me and said there had been a serious meeting. Nathan and Alyssa had been escorted out while the company reviewed the situation. Later, I learned he had been placed on leave first, then terminated after the internal investigation. It was not the dramatic movie scene people imagine. No public screaming. No grand speech. Just a man who expected a promotion walking into a building and leaving without the future he thought was guaranteed. That evening, he came to the house. I saw him through the window before he knocked. He looked different. Not ruined, not yet, but shaken. I opened the door with the chain still on. His eyes dropped to it. Really? Say what you came to say. You tried to destroy my life. No, I said. I told the truth. You had no right. That almost made me laugh. No right? You think this helps the baby? You think making me lose my job helps anyone? I gripped the doorframe. You waived visitation. His jaw tightened. That is not what we are talking about. It is exactly what we are talking about. Emma, open the door. No. For a second, his face changed. The calm mask slipped, and I saw the panic underneath. You're going to regret this, he said. I looked at him and told the truth. Maybe. Because I knew I might. I was not pretending to be fearless. I was not pretending every choice I made was perfect. I was saying I could regret the cost and still not take it back. After he left, I locked the door, sat on the floor, and cried until my throat hurt. Not because I missed him. Because I was exhausted. Every path in front of me had damage attached to it. If I stayed quiet, he won. If I told the truth, Grace and I might pay for it. There was no clean road, only the road I could live with. Mara was not happy when I told her. You sent it directly? She asked. Yes. Without calling me first? Yes. She closed her eyes for 1 second. Emma. I know. No, you need to understand. This may complicate settlement. He may become more aggressive. It could affect the money available. I know. Did you alter anything? No. Did you threaten anyone? No. Did you access a private account that was not shared? No. It was on our shared tablet and shared accounts before he logged out. She exhaled. Then we deal with the consequences. And the consequences came quickly. Nathan's lawyer tried to make him sound like a humiliated man whose private life had been weaponized by an angry wife. Mara pushed back hard. The company situation was separate. The divorce was separate. Nathan was the one whose choices connected them. Still, the money became complicated. He argued that because he had lost his job, support should be based on his new situation. Mara argued that Grace should not be punished because her father's own conduct damaged his income. She explained that the court could consider his earning history and what he was still capable of earning. Before the hearing, my parents came over. My mother brought groceries. My father fixed a loose cabinet handle without being asked. For half an hour, things almost felt normal. Then my mother sat at the kitchen table and said, Emma, we need to talk about what you did. My father looked at his hands. My mother said, we are not defending him. Whenever someone starts that way, they usually are about to defend someone. What he did was awful, she continued. But if you had waited, Grace could have had more security. I closed the fridge slowly. She will have security. Will she? If he fights every payment? If he cannot find work? He abandoned her. I know. He cheated. I know. He was about to be rewarded while we were being erased. My father finally spoke. No one is saying he deserved to get away with it. We are saying you may have hurt yourself in order to hurt him. That landed because it was the fear I had been refusing to say out loud. I looked at them and asked, so I should have stayed quiet? My mother's eyes filled. I'm saying sometimes being a parent means swallowing things that are unfair. I placed my hand on my stomach. No. Being her mother means making sure the first lesson I teach her is not that powerful people get protected because their money is useful. No one spoke after that. My father looked away. My mother wiped her cheek and said, I hope you're right. So did I. Grace was born 3 weeks early on a rainy Tuesday morning. After months of noise, lawyers, messages, and fear, her arrival felt strangely quiet. Tessa drove me to the hospital. My mother met us there. Nathan was listed as someone to notify, but not someone allowed in the delivery room. I stared at that line on the form longer than I should have. Then I signed it. Labor was painful and exhausting. At one point, I cried because I wanted someone to tell me I was doing a good job. My mother held one hand. Tessa held the other. When Grace finally cried, the room changed. The nurse placed her on my chest, and this tiny, furious little person opened her mouth like she had been waiting months to announce herself. I laughed through tears. Hi, baby, I whispered. She stopped crying for half a second when she heard my voice. That moment did not erase what happened. Nathan was still gone. The divorce was still happening. My future was still uncertain. But Grace was real. Warm. Breathing. Mine. And I knew, with a clarity I had never felt before, that she had never been the disappointment in this story. Nathan came to the hospital the next day. I did not invite him. A nurse asked if I wanted him allowed in. I looked down at Grace sleeping against me. 5 minutes, I said. He walked in carrying flowers still wrapped in plastic. His eyes went straight to the baby. For a moment, something flickered across his face. Maybe regret. Maybe shock. Maybe just the realization that she existed outside of the argument now. She's small, he said. She's perfect. He swallowed. What's her name? Grace. His mouth tightened. That was your grandmother's name. Yes. He nodded like he had a right to be included in the choice. Then he asked, can I hold her? I looked at him for a long moment. And this is where some people may hate me. I said no. Not forever. Not legally. Not because I wanted to use Grace against him. I said no because my daughter was 1 day old, and the man standing in front of me had spent months rejecting her existence. He had not earned the right to turn her birth into a moment for his guilt. His face hardened. You can't keep her from me. I'm not. We have court for that. But today, no. He set the flowers on the chair and left. I asked Tessa to throw them away. The hearing happened 2 months later. Nathan looked thinner in court. Less polished. His suit was still expensive, but the confidence was gone. He avoided looking at me. His lawyer argued that his financial circumstances had changed. Mara argued that his choices caused those circumstances and that Grace still deserved support based on his established earning ability. When Nathan spoke, he tried to sound wounded. I have been publicly humiliated. I am trying to rebuild. The judge looked at him and said, "Your child still needs support while you rebuild." That was the first time in months I felt like I could breathe. The final order was not a fantasy. I did not walk out with millions. There was no perfect trust fund or instant peaceful ending. But the court used his earning history when setting support. He had to contribute to legal fees and make immediate payments from assets he still had. His request to reduce everything to almost nothing was denied. It was a win. A complicated win, but a win. Alyssa left him soon after. I only know because Nathan's mother called me one evening, crying, saying he was alone now and asking if I was happy. Grace was on my shoulder, half asleep, with spit up on my shirt. Happy was not the word. So I said, "I'm busy," and ended the call. Nathan moved in with his parents for a while. He has been trying to rebuild his career, but not at the level he had before. People talk. Companies check. Reputation matters more than men like Nathan admit until theirs is gone. My parents still think I made the wrong financial choice. Not all the time. They love Grace deeply. My mother sings to her. My father built shelves in the nursery and pretends he is not emotional every time she smiles at him. But sometimes the argument comes back. You could have waited, my mother says. Timing matters, my father says. And maybe they are not completely wrong. That is the part one live with. If I had waited, Nathan might have gotten the promotion. The support numbers might have been bigger. Grace might have had more money attached to her future. Maybe I chose accountability over strategy. Maybe I chose anger over patience. Maybe I cost my daughter something. But silence has a cost too. It would have meant letting Nathan walk into that promotion while I carried the truth alone. It would have meant teaching my daughter, before she was even born, that powerful men can be protected as long as they are useful enough. I think about that when the house is quiet. Grace is 6 months old now. She has my eyes, Nathan's stubborn chin, and a smile that makes the darkest parts of my life feel farther away. She loves ceiling fans. She hates socks. She grips my finger like she is making sure I stay. And I do. Every time. Her nursery is small and warm. The yellow blanket is still folded over the rocking chair. Some nights, after her last bottle, I sit there with her sleeping against my chest and listen to the quiet. There was a time when quiet felt like abandonment. Now it feels like peace. Not perfect peace. Not peace without consequences. But the kind of peace you build after everything burns down and you realize you are still standing. Nathan wanted a legacy. He thought legacy meant a son, a name, a title, a future that looked exactly the way he imagined. But his real legacy is this: a daughter he rejected, a wife he underestimated, and a life that changed the moment the truth reached the right room. I do not know if what I did was noble. I do not know if it was selfish. Maybe it was both. All I know is that when Grace is old enough to ask what happened, I will not tell her I stayed quiet so the man who abandoned her could become more powerful. I will tell her I chose the truth, even when it cost us. So I still wonder, when the house is dark and my daughter is asleep in my arms, did I protect her from a toxic legacy, or did I gamble with her future because I needed to see her father fall?